That's just showing off. Vivian Campbell, that's showing off.
It's not quite Queen's Vengeance, though, is it? You know what I mean?
You say Queen's Vengeance because Ben Troyle texted in and he said, whenever Viv's in, tell him that Queen's Vengeance is the best solo ever. And that's only going back 40 years.
40, yeah, indeed.
Not far off.
I know.
Vivian Campbell is in the studio this morning. Good to have you with us, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
People probably know your story, your history, but it is, I have to say, for me personally, it is very strange to have such a rock legend from here in the studio, because we talk to a lot of people, but they're never from here. But, we have our very own bona fide rock legend.
Oh, go figure. I know. I'm still trying to make sense of it, I mean, the last award I won was when I was with Hillsborough Boys. I was 12.
Good football team.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard you're a good football team.
They were a good wee team back then.
So
and in between then, I got no awards,
Yeah, so you're here because tomorrow night you're getting an award from the the Legend Award for your longevity, your services to music.
It's very flattering, I gotta say. And we were just talking before we went on air there about how nervous I am about whether or not I should start naming names, because
you'll be there for a while.
I would be there for a while, because I've been in a lot of bands. I mean, I've been very fortunate in that way. Getting to work with a lot of great musicians, and so I in the heat of the moment, I would forget to name someone, and then somebody would be pissed off.
Well, let's go back to those days. Then you say you've been in a lot of bands. We'll go back to the start. You're 12 years of age. You pick up a guitar. 3 years later, you're in a pretty decent metal band called Sweet Savage. Well, after it was originally Teaser.
Yes. Well, every band was called Teaser.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you changed to Sweet Savage. And Sweet Savage were, they were big in their day.
Yeah, I mean, we did what we could. We wrote our own songs, and we opened for everyone, every rock band that came over here, Lizzie, Wishbone Ash, Motorhead, Wild Horses, went across to the mainland, played with Budgie in the original Marquee Club and places like I did the Renegade tour with Lizzie all over the UK. They did the Friday Rock Show.
Tommy
Vance, yes. It was great. It was lovely to get to know him.
But you must have been a nipper.
We were all young. Huh?
Yeah.
And then, we tried, we did what we could, and it's very flattering that we, went on to inspire bands like Metallica,
Exactly, yeah. Killing Time, they still do it in their set, yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of bittersweet. It would have been great if Sweet Savage had cracked it and gone on, and maybe I would have had a career just in one band.
As opposed to 15. So how did the call come from Dio then? Because was that just doing that sort of circuit in London and stuff? Or?
Well, yeah, Jimmy Bain was the bass player in Wild Horses, and they were one of the bands we opened for, and Jimmy remembered me. My father's name was Vivian, and he looked up Vivian Campbell in the phone book, and there weren't many in Northern Ireland, so he found him, and he literally woke my father up at 2:00 in the morning. And I remember my dad coming around waking me up and saying there's a drunken Scotsman on the phone to you. And Jimmy was in London with Vinnie Appice, drummer from Black Sabbath at the time, and Ronnie James Dio, and they were looking for a guitar player, and Jimmy had remembered me, and he said, "Can you fly over to London?" And I said, "When?" He said, "Like in the morning." So my father, God bless him, I mean, he really was my biggest fan. I mean, I would never have done a thing without his support. And so even despite the fact that he got woken in the middle of the night by Jimmy, he bought me the plane ticket, which I didn't have the money for, and I flew to London, auditioned for Dio. About a month later, flew to Los Angeles. And I've had the misfortune of being there ever since. I'm still trying to escape.
So that's where you're still living now.
I have, yeah. I've got just under 2 years left on my sentence, and then my younger daughter goes to college, and then I can leave.
All right,
so,
okay.
It's family. It's all about your kids. So it's wherever your children are, you have to be, and that's where I've been. It's. I mean, I don't mean to rag it. It's not such a bad city. I mean, it's got a lot going for it, but it's a strange,
too much smog.
It's a strange place, yeah. Too much traffic, too many people.
So where was your head then whenever you suddenly realised you'd got a gig with arguably one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time with a back catalogue like he had? It
was very surreal, I gotta say. It was strange. I mean, musically it was great. It was very dynamic, but I always felt very uncomfortable around Ronnie because I was a fan. I was a huge fan. And it was kind of like being in a band with your stepdad in a way, because he was very protective of me, and trying to protect me from Los Angeles in the 1980s. So you can imagine what was going on.
We'll get into that in a minute.
So, you know, and I appreciated that. I mean, we had a very strange relationship, but it really was like being in a band with your step-parent, because he was kind of just about old enough to be my dad, and I had so much respect for him professionally. You know, I was literally listening to Mob Rules and
what a great
you
album.
know, Rainbow Rising and Long Live Rock and Roll and all that stuff, and then the phone rings and
it's Dio.
It's Dio, yeah. So you know, it was bizarre. It really was.
Well, let's take a wee track. This is probably from the first album with Dio that you played on. Probably, you know, the Last in Line album was that the first?
Last in Line was the second album. Holy Diver was the first Dio album.
So you played on Holy Diver as well, did you?
Yeah, Holy Diver, Last in Line, and Sacred Heart were the 3 Dio albums.
Okay, well, this is probably one of the singles from it. This is Mystery. Dio favourites.
We were just saying.
You were just saying.
Not. No. I mean, there's some great songs on that album. It is actually my favourite Dio album, Last in Line. But just not that song.
I know he said to us, get it out before the guitar solos. You're not proud of the guitar solo then?
I've had a hard time reconciling a lot of my work from the past, but I'm much more comfortable with it now. I haven't heard that guitar solo in a while, but I don't have great memories of it, you know.
Right, okay.
That one was a bit like pulling teeth. Right?
It's well documented that, you know, towards the end of that stint you didn't see eye to eye with Dio. However, you're out on tour now with the new band, you know, and you're doing probably Dio stuff there. And,
we are, yeah. The band's called Last in Line.
Yeah,
I mean, we put that together after Ronnie passed away, about a year or so after Ronnie died. I called up Vinny Appice and Jimmy Bain. Jimmy was still alive then. We've lost him too, unfortunately. But I just wanted to play guitar again. You know, I did just to back it up a little bit, I did a brief European tour as a stunt guitarist for Thin Lizzy in 2010, 2011, and that really kind of brought me back to my youth, because they were so influential to me when I was with Sweet Savage, when I was really honing my craft. And so I reconnected to my inner 17-year-old, and I came off of that tour. I just wanted to play more guitar. I called Vinny and Jimmy and I said, you know, let's just go into a rehearsal room and play. And we did, and it had been 27 years at that point since we played together, and it could have been 27 minutes. It just was immediate when we started playing, and I got goosebumps, and everyone got so excited, and one thing led to another, and it was just for a fun thing, you know. But Vinny said, I know this singer called Andrew Freeman. He doesn't sound anything like Ronnie, but he's a really powerful rock singer. He said he's a bit of an asshole, but other than that, he's
sorry,
not really,
kids.
Sorry. I didn't mean to say that. He's not really. Andy's a lovely guy, but it's just a running joke we have. But anyway, so Andy comes in, he starts singing, and that's when I had the idea. I said, this sounds very interesting. You have the unmistakable sound of the original Dio band. When Jimmy and Vinny and I played together, we had this certain chemistry, and you have a singer who's powerful and passionate but doesn't sound like Ronnie. And if Andy had sounded like Ronnie, we would never have done it. It would have been just
too much of a tribute band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it made it interesting enough where it was different. So right there and then I said, well, you know, Ronnie's gone. We're literally the last in line. That was the name of the album and the song. Let's just go out under the name Last in Line and play songs from those early Dio albums. And that's what we did. And over the years it grew. We ended up coming over here and playing here in the summer of 2013. A month or two later, went to Tokyo and played over there. So it started to expand, and then we got a call from a record label, said, would you be interested in writing and recording new music? Which, to be honest, to that point, we hadn't really thought about that, because everyone has a day job, you know, and we just had limited ambition. But we ended up making a record. It came out in February of 2016. That album's called Heavy Crown. Unfortunately, we lost Jimmy a month before that album was released. Jimmy died, and that, you know, we cancelled all our tour plans and stuff. That really took the wind out of our sails. But there was a great response to the album, and after a month or two, we figured we owed it to ourselves and to Jimmy's memory to pick up and go out and work the record. So we got Phil Suzanne to play bass. He used to play with Ozzy back in the 80s, and he's very much of the mold of Jimmy and that style, and got Eric Norlander on keyboards, and we've been doing shows ever since. We're working on our second album, and we'll be playing the Mandela tomorrow night after
the awards, after
I embarrass myself with my acceptance speech. I'll be like, maybe I'll shut up and play my guitar.
So it'll be all good.
I'm best at, you know?
So shortly after Dio, then you got the call from Coverdale.
Yeah,
that was short-lived.
Well, yeah, the Dio thing. It was 3 albums, 3 tours. The business side of it didn't work out so well. That's a long story. I'll write a book about that someday.
Show me the money.
No, it wasn't about money. It was about principle. You
Right.
know, I mean, when I'm very big on principle, I believe. When somebody shakes your hand, looks in the eye, and you make an agreement, you have an agreement.
Yeah.
And when people start reneging on agreements, I have an issue with that. I'm very big on principle.
Yeah. I saw Vinny was saying something in Blabbermouth there a few weeks ago. He was supporting you with the whole thing. He said the whole band felt the same way, but it was you that got it in the neck, really.
Well, yeah, it was, because I was a squeaky wheel, because I wasn't married, I didn't have a mortgage, I had nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, hey, a deal's a deal, what's happening here? And so it was easy for them to just get rid of me, but it is what it is. I mean, it's, that's water under the bridge, as they say. But yeah, so I was very fortunate after that. I got a call from one of the great A&R guys, John Kolodner in LA, and he was putting together this lineup for Whitesnake. It was version 37B, whatever. There's been so many versions of Whitesnake, but this one, it was. They just made a great record with John Sykes. I mean, I got to give credit where credit's due. It was John Sykes' record.
Guy as well.
Yeah, fantastic guitar player. And he very much like myself, we both ripped off Gary Moore, so he probably did it a lot better. But anyway, so they'd done this great record, but the band had sort of fallen apart. There was only David Coverdale, and this record was poised to be released, and so they put together this super group, if you like. It was myself and Adrian Vandenberg on guitar, Rudy Sarzo on bass, Tommy Aldridge on drums, and Coverdale, of course, on vocals. Yeah. And the first thing we did together was shoot 3 music videos over the period of a week before we'd played a note together. And that kind of set the tone for the band.
Yeah,
I mean, it was the 80s, huge hair, shoulder pads,
yeah.
shaking your arse, it was all about, it was a very image-driven band.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of reflected musically. I mean, it was never, to my ears personally, and no disrespect to any of the players in the band, because all fantastic players, but I don't feel that we ever really gelled, and certainly not in the way that the Dio band was, just musically, like, just so connected,
We're about a third of the way through your career. We'll be back in a wee minute. Big stars, put on glam makeup and do a Sweet cover.
Well, I'd had that in the back of my mind since 1972 when I first saw Mark Bolan on Top of the Pops.
You always want to be a glam rocker.
Well, that's what started it for me. It was Top of the Pops, and it was Bolan, T-Rex.
And you decided you wanted a piece of the action?
I see what you did.
The Sweet number as performed by Def Leppard. So we've only just arrived at Def Leppard. I could talk to you all morning. It's absolute pleasure, a joy to have you in chatting about the old days. And you probably are a walking Spinal Tap episode. The stories, you've probably done every single Spinal Tap scenario in the book,
except the cucumber down the trousers.
Really?
I haven't done
Everybody's
that yet.
done that.
But the day's young,
I've done it. But in terms of rock and roll excess, what's the weirdest thing that you've kind of seen on tour with Whitesnake, Dio, Def Leppard?
Nothing you could talk about on the
okay. So
version.
bearing in mind that it's a kid family friendly program, there must be some other weird stuff that
I've seen a lot. Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was Los Angeles in the 1980s.
Yeah,
there was a lot went on, but I coming from Northern Ireland, I think does keep you grounded, and I've always kept my head down. I've always just wanted to be a musician. Mm-hmm. I never really liked the moniker of rock star, and especially when you go to LA and you see a lot of people who put that first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I'm a rock star, and guys who walk around, just
being a rock star.
Yeah, but they don't have anything to really back it up, So to me, it was always, I always wanted to put the horse ahead of the cart. It was always about playing guitar and being as good as I could at that, and I think that served me well,
Absolutely.
So I've always felt a little bit uncomfortable when people refer to me as a rock star. I always try and correct them and remind them I'd like to be a musician, but really, ultimately, I know at the end of the day I'm an entertainer. Yeah. Because,
and you do the rock star very well.
That's really what it's about. It's like we sell nostalgia to people, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And the Def Leppard guys, and what's going on with Def Leppard at the minute? What's the next thing?
We just got back from South America. We only played there once, and that was 20 years ago in 1997, and we hadn't been back since. We went down there. We played Rock in Rio to 100,000 people. It was just immense. We did a couple of shows with The Who, I had Pete Townsend carve his name into my guitar, and it's funny. He took out a Sharpie. I said, Pete, can you sign my guitar for me? I took him my '56 Gold Top reissue, and he says, "Are you sure that's a really nice guitar?" He takes out a Sharpie, and I go, Pete, it's like. You of all people, it's like, but when did you start being nice to guitars? So I handed him a screwdriver and he carves his name on it. So it was great. We played. The best thing I think about all of that, Brazil. We did 3 shows down there. We did Buenos Aires, which is a great rock city. Like Belfast, it's one of the great rock audiences in the world. And we played Santiago, Chile. Went to Mexico for a few shows. But the biggest takeaway from it all for me was that easily half of the audience or more were young enough to be our kids,
But they still love the tunes.
And they knew the tunes, they loved it. So that's very encouraging. So we're definitely going to be going back there soon.
And plans for sort of Europe with Death Leppard?
Yeah, next year will be a big year. We're going to do a big American tour starting in the spring. And then at the end of next year, we're going to come over to Europe. We're going to do the UK. Probably going to go to Japan, Australia. They're still doing all the details of that, but we're definitely coming back here.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy your night tomorrow night.
Thank you very much.
You're getting the NI Music Award Legend Award.
Legend Award
in the Mandela
Somebody
Hall
get
tomorrow.
that man a foot.
And you're going to be performing with the band as well.
Last in line, yes.
So have a fantastic night. It's well deserved.
Thank you very much, Morris.
It's lovely that we have one of our own up there. So and thank you for coming in this morning at this ungodly rockstar hour.
It's all good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.